Tony Robbins often says the size of your life is directly proportional to the size of the problems you can handle. So the key to a great life is not to avoid all the problems you're facing, but to be able to handle the most challenging problems that come your way. And in this book, Dale Carnegie talks about how to handle the biggest problems in your life, how to quit worrying about your problems and start handling them and start living again. This book was published back in 1944 and has since sold over 6 million copies. And hence, I can tell you there's a lot of wisdom in this book. In this video, I will give you 5 powerful strategies to conquer all the worry in your life. Okay, strategy number 1. Live in day-tight compartments. You see, big ships have watertight compartments in their hull. In case of a leak in one compartment, various parts of the ship are shut off from one another using these watertight compartments, and the leak is limited to one compartment. It never floods the entire ship, and the ship stays afloat as a result. And that's what we must do. We must shut the iron doors of past and future and focus on today. We must break down the giant goals and big worries into what we can accomplish today. What can you act on today? What would be a win today? Just focus on winning today rather than worrying about everything else in the past and the future. Every single day you wake up, you have specific goals for the day and you focus on nothing else but accomplishing your goals. That is the key to living in day-tight compartments. Strategy number 2 is to accept what is. The great philosopher William James said, "Be willing to have it so." Acceptance of what has happened is the first step to overcoming the consequences of any misfortune. This is the essence of Stoicism. Now, what is Stoicism? Well, here's the most fundamental understanding of Stoicism. At any given moment, you have to be able to differentiate between what you can control and what you cannot control. And you have to focus all your energy on what you can control and let go of what you cannot control. For example, I fractured my toe a few months ago just when I was in the midst of a fitness challenge. Now, after fretting about that for 3 minutes, I realized that there is nothing I can do about it. So I went ahead and modified my workout regimen to focus on the upper body workouts, and that allowed me to massively improve my bench press numbers over a period of 2 months. You see, that is the power of accepting what is and living life like a Stoic. We are always focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot control. The next powerful strategy is what I call the 5-step process. You see, when you are stressing out about something, one of the most powerful things you can do is to make a decision about what you will do next. As Dale Carnegie says, that itself will relieve 50% of your stress. Not only that, once you start taking action on that decision, another 40% of your stress will go away. So now you have dealt with 90% of your stress just by making a decision and taking action on that decision. So when you're worried, here are the 5 steps you must take. Step 1, identify what exactly are you worried about. Write it down. Step 2, write down what can you do about it. What exactly is within your control? What's actionable? Step 3, write down what exactly will you do. Step 4, write down when will you do those things. What is the specific time? What is the specific place? Put it on your calendar. And step 5, take action. When you do this 5-step process, you will realize that you will have handled 90% of the things you are worried about. Okay, the next strategy, one of my favorite strategies, is what's the worst that could happen? You see, when you are faced with seemingly big problems and challenges, you have to ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? What's the absolute worst? I still remember the day before the biggest job interview of my life. Let me tell you that story. The year was 2004 and I had just lost my engineering job in Austin, Texas. And given that I had an H-1B visa at the time, I had 30 days to find a new engineering job or I would have to leave the US and go back to India. So I had just flown to San Jose for an interview at Harmonic Inc. the next morning. And it was one of the biggest interviews of my life and I was stressed out to the limit. So in that moment of extreme stress, I took a piece of paper and I started to write down what's the worst possible scenario in this case. And I wrote down, in the worst case, I will not find a job. I will have to go to India and find a new job. And I will probably move to Delhi and I would be much closer to my parents as a result of that. And as a result of that, I would get to spend a lot more time with my mom and my dad. So in many ways, the worst case scenario was actually not that bad. And in that moment, I had a sense of calmness I had not felt since the day I had lost my job. And the next day, I did a great job at the interview and got a job offer from Harmonic Inc. So that is the power of accepting the worst case scenario. That acceptance can paradoxically give you a lot of strength. Once you accept the worst case, there is nothing more to lose. Once you accept the worst case possible, you get a sense of calmness, and now you begin to improve upon the worst case situation. The next big idea is to get busy. Get busy solving your problems. Solving problems so demanding that you have no time to worry about anything else. You see, when you lose yourself in action, you will not have the time to worry. You have to work so hard that you're exhausted by the end of the day. There's a really powerful and touching story from Dale Carnegie's class of this man named Michael. Michael had lost his 5-year-old daughter, and then 10 months later, he lost his newly born baby. And Michael could not take it anymore. He went to doctors, and the doctors were helpless. They gave him sleeping pills to relax his mind, but they were running out of options to get him to calm down. But there was one thing that Michael still had. He had a 4-year-old son. And one day, Michael's son insisted on helping him build a toy boat. Michael said no, he had no interest in that. He was still down on himself, but his son kept on insisting. So Michael finally gave in reluctantly. He worked with his son for 3 hours to build the toy boat, and those 3 hours were the most peaceful 3 hours he had had in a very long time. And that is when he had a major realization that being busy had cured his worry for the time. And the next day, he went around the house making a list of everything that needed to be done, 242 things in total. And he attended to those 242 things over the next few months. And that is how he totally stopped worrying. So why does this work? Well, there's a simple law of human mind. It is not possible to think about 2 things at the same time. Try this experiment right now. Think of a pink elephant, and now also think about your biggest goal for this year. You see, what you'll find is that you just cannot think of both of them at the same time, and that is the key. When you get busy, you stop worrying about your problems. A reporter once asked Winston Churchill, "Are you worried about the war and the responsibilities you have?" Winston Churchill said, "No, I'm too busy. I have no time for worry." And that is the key to curing yourself of worry. So if you enjoyed this, you'll probably enjoy my top 10 ideas from this book. And you can get all 10 of those ideas by clicking on the link below or just going to 2000books.com/bonus. Hopefully you enjoyed this, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.